my name is Peristu Imami, and I'm the host of The Road to Success for Your Highly Sensitive Child. This podcast is about empowering parents of highly sensitive children to nurture their child's unique personality trait and create a path to success. Our podcast provides guidance, insights, and support to help you unlock your child's full potential, fostering resilience, confidence, and a bright future. If you're new to my podcast, please go back and listen to episodes 1 and 2 because they provide information on high sensitivity that all subsequent episodes will build upon. If you skip these episodes, you won't get as much out of this and all subsequent episodes. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com. If you're looking for a talented portrait photographer, I highly recommend Laurie Bishop of Become Studios. Check her website out at www.becomebeseen.com. You can find this link in my podcast description. For a limited time, if you use the promo code PARISTU100, you will get a $100 credit towards photo purchases. In today's episode, we'll focus on how healthcare professionals such as doctors, nurses, and dentists can play a supportive role in your highly sensitive child's life, and how we as parents can prepare them for these visits to make the experience as gentle and positive as possible. We'll be breaking down today's episode in 3 key parts: understanding the role of healthcare professionals, practical steps doctors can take to create a calm environment, and how we as parents can support our children and advocate for their needs. So let's get into it. Let's start with the role of healthcare professionals such as doctors, nurses, and dentists. They're more than just professionals treating a medical or dental issue. For our children, they're the gatekeepers to health and well-being. Doctors and dentists have the powers to shape how a highly sensitive child perceives healthcare in general, potentially for the rest of their life. Now, some might think that that's overstating things, but for highly sensitive children, experiences of any kind are processed more deeply. A negative experience at the doctor's office might make them fearful of medical environments as a whole, and that's something we want to avoid. So healthcare professionals have an essential role in setting up these kids for a lifetime of positive associations with taking care of their health. This means that doctors, nurses, and dentists should be aware of and sensitive to the unique needs of highly sensitive children. They should recognize that a child's anxiety or discomfort is not an overreaction. It's part of their deeply sensitive wiring. By acknowledging this, healthcare professionals can adopt a more compassionate, patient-centered approach that fosters trust rather than fear. Also, it's important to understand high sensitivity and the 4 components that make up high sensitivity. Understanding a highly sensitive child is a crucial part of being able to treat their medical needs correctly. In my situation, I can tell you that I often felt misunderstood by my doctors because they couldn't figure out, for example, what was causing my stomach issues as a child, and they would just write it off as something that I'm making up. This made me feel very frustrated, and I thought perhaps I'm not explaining myself well or in the correct way. Now that I'm an adult, I understand that the problem was that my doctors didn't know about high sensitivity. And unfortunately, many healthcare professionals still don't know about high sensitivity. That's why it's important to advocate for your child. And if you feel that your doctor is not willing to understand your child, then perhaps switching your doctor might be the right solution for you. So let's dive into what healthcare professionals can do to make their practice more accommodating for highly sensitive children. If you're listening to this as a parent, these are fantastic suggestions to share with your child's healthcare provider, either ahead of time or during the appointment itself. If you're doing it during the appointment itself, please make sure that you don't do this in front of your child. It's important that your child doesn't feel like they're different than other people. Even though this is the case, they are different than other people. But we want to make sure that they don't have that feeling of they're different in a negative way. So, if you're going to talk to the doctor in front of the child, I suggest that you stay as positive as possible with everything that you're explaining about your child. Even things that are seen as a negative, perhaps like, my child gets overwhelmed easily, that could be stated in a more positive fashion, such as, because my child takes in a lot and is a very deep thinker and feeler, they may get overwhelmed easily as a result. And that may cause them to get a stomach ache, for example. So, whatever your situation is, just make sure that you say things in a very positive way if you're talking in front of your child. I highly recommend that you don't do that you don't talk to the doctor in front of your child, because then you don't have to sugarcoat things and you don't have to state it in such a way, and you can just be black and white about it. And so that the doctor clearly understands what's going on with your particular child. As I've mentioned numerous times, every child is unique, and every child has unique, you have to have a unique approach for every child. It's not like a cookie cutter parenting approach. So, so let's talk about what the doctors can do. So, first of all, they can create a calm environment. Um, so sometimes, doctors' offices are not very welcoming. So they might have very overwhelming setup with bright lights, for example, or, decor that is very sterile and it's not very inviting. So as a highly sensitive child, the child would get influenced by all of that. So it's better if you can find a doctor that's very in tune with that kind of a child, so that they could have, a more softer approach to the decor, like calming wall colors, quiet music, dim lights. And these can make a huge difference for a highly sensitive child. So it's great to be able to see ahead of time, before you choose a doctor, if your child's provider can accommodate for your child to, to make sure that your child is going to be comfortable going to their doctor, especially if it's a doctor like a pediatrician that you're going to see on a regular basis. So the second thing that a doctor can do is give a detailed explanation before each step. As you know, highly sensitive children really love understanding what's going to happen before it happens, so that they can get prepared, so that they know what's coming and they don't get surprised. They don't like surprises, especially when it comes to their health and well-being. So it's giving as much explanation ahead of time minimizes their anxiety and helps them feel more in control. For instance, if the doctor is about to check their ears, they could explain something like, now I'm going to use a little light to look inside your ears to make sure they're healthy. It might feel a little ticklish, but it won't hurt. So, especially in the situation where there might be a discomfort, this is very important for you to let the child know that, hey, you're going to have a little bit of a discomfort. If something is going to be like a pinch or like a quick poke, explain all that to them. They can get mentally prepared for it. Otherwise, they might get overwhelmed very quickly. Then the next thing is use gentle touch and slow movement. Highly sensitive kids tend to feel physical sensations more intensely, so fast or sudden movements can feel very, very invasive. So healthcare providers can help by using a gentler touch, moving slowly, and allowing the child to adjust as they go. And also just asking the child how they're doing is a really good way of helping the child know that they're in good hands and that they can trust the doctor because the doctor is checking in and caring about how they're doing. And then, of course, highly sensitive children love options. They like to be in control, and options gives them a chance to be in control. So, offering small choices can empower a highly sensitive child a lot. Options could be as simple as, would you like to sit on the chair by yourself, or would you prefer to sit on your parent's lap? Or another example would be, would you like to hold the stethoscope while I listen to your heartbeat? Something like that could also be helpful, where you're getting them to be engaging with you, to take part in what you're doing. Next is allowing breaks if needed. So it's really important for the child to know that you care about their comfort and well-being by giving them the opportunity to let you know if they need a break. That helps them trust you more and understand that you really do care about them. So since sometimes these experiences with a doctor, dentist, or a nurse can be too much for them, um, maybe just taking a break, brief break from whatever it is that the doctor or dentist is doing, can help the child be able to kind of regulate themselves and not feel overwhelmed. And then lastly, practice empathy and validation. Uh, Saying things like, I know this can feel a bit uncomfortable, or I can see you're a little nervous, and that's okay. This can go a long way with a highly sensitive child. When children feel understood and validated, they're more likely to trust and cooperate with their caregivers. So, I think one example of what I felt with my doctors, unfortunately, when I was growing up, the concept of high sensitivity was known, but it wasn't known that well. So even today, it's not known that well. So, but it's better today than it was, let's say, 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But one of the things that I noticed is it made me feel very uncomfortable when my doctor would dismiss what I'm telling them. Like they would think that either I'm making things up, or I'm exaggerating, or I'm being a hypochondriac. I really disliked that because at the time I was actually having these severe feelings like stomach aches. For me, it was mostly stomach aches, and that's very common with highly sensitive children, is that they do often have stomach aches. So when my parents would take me to the doctor and the doctor would just see, oh, I don't see anything, everything looks good, it would make me feel so frustrated and so disappointed, because I felt like, okay, then basically this doctor is saying that I'm making this up and they're not validating my feelings. So I didn't really feel comfortable going to the doctor, because I felt like, okay, well, they're just going to invalidate me anyway. So why bother? So then I started not even telling my parents when I would get stomach aches, and just kind of dealing it with on my own, which is not a very good way of being as a child, of course. So just make sure that you choose the right doctor, or dentist or any healthcare provider, choose them carefully. Make sure that they know about high sensitivity. And if they don't know about high sensitivity, then teach them. And if they don't want to learn, then that's your clue that perhaps you need to change your doctor, because you definitely want to have a doctor that is going to accommodate your child's needs, because they can set your child up for success when it comes to their taking care of their health, or they can basically um, put fear into your child regarding going to healthcare professionals. And then this fear might stay with them long term, because, as you know, highly sensitive children um, process things very deeply. And a lot of times they have amazing memories. And especially if it's a negative experience, they remember that experience for a long time. And that might impact how they feel about um, getting the care that they need from healthcare professionals. So let's talk about how parents can prepare and support their child when it comes to taking them to doctors or nurses or any other healthcare professional. So, as parents, we play a huge role in setting the stage for positive healthcare experiences. Some of the things that you can do to support your child before, during, and after an appointment are, for example, communicate in advance with the doctor or the healthcare professional. Reach out to them and explain that your child is highly sensitive. Ask them if they know what that is. If they don't, ask them if they're willing to learn about it, and then share. You can either share this podcast and have them listen to it for episodes 1 and 2, or you could perhaps give them like a handout about high sensitivity and specific to your child. Like, how is the high sensitivity showing up in your child specifically? The more detail you can give the healthcare provider, the better it is for them in order to understand your child and be able to treat them better. And then share any specific accommodations that can help them feel comfortable, and ask if they're willing to work with you on these adjustments. For example, if your child is sensitive to bright lights, ask your healthcare provider if they're willing to dim the lights for your child's appointment specifically. Or if, their music is loud, or maybe not the type of music that your child would enjoy. Not just enjoying, but I mean, there are certain music that are very harsh to your ears for a highly sensitive child. So if the doctor is willing to change the music, for example, or lower the volume of the music while your child has the appointment with them, these can help your child a lot, because these things can definitely overwhelm them if they're already, would get overwhelmed with going to the doctors or the dentist. And then prepare your child ahead of time. Highly sensitive children respond really well to being prepared. So the more information that you give them, the better their experience is going to be, because they can prepare ahead of time for what's coming. So you might want to describe what they'll see, hear, and feel. You can also role play. A lot of my clients do role plays with their children, and this really helps their child understand what they can experience, especially when it's something that they haven't experienced in the past. So if it's a first time for them, it's really, the role playing really helps. And then reassure them that you'll be there the whole time with them, so that they don't have to go through this alone. And then, depending on their age, you might want to bring comfort items. So, familiar objects such as stuffed animals or a small blanket, or noise canceling headphones, for example, if you think it's going to be a loud environment, can provide your child with a sense of security in an unfamiliar environment. And then advocate, but don't over explain. So while advocating for your child is important, try not to over explain their needs in front of them. Instead, discuss your child's sensitivities privately with the healthcare provider, either before or right after the appointment. I suggest before, actually. It's always a good idea to do things before your child experiences them, and not after, of course. It depends on the situation, but most of the time I would recommend beforehand. And like I said before, just make sure that you talk to the doctor in private rather than in front of your child. And if you are going to talk in front of your child, just make sure that you're not describing the situation in a negative light, so that your child doesn't feel like there's something wrong with them, or that high sensitivity is a negative thing, or something to be ashamed of, or anything like that. So yeah, as much as possible, try not to make your child feel like they're being singled out, or that they're different than other people. And then lastly, offer praise and positive reinforcement. When the appointment is over, acknowledge their bravery. Tell them how well they did and how proud you are of them. Even if they struggled, focus on the positive moments. Even if those moments are small, it doesn't matter. As long as you're praising them, and you're praising them truthfully, you're not just saying things that didn't happen, of course, because highly sensitive people are very, very deep thinkers. So if you're going to make up things, they're going to pick it up right away. So make sure that you're praising on things that they actually did. And even if they were small things, you can just kind of emphasize that more. But reinforcing a sense of accomplishment helps them build resilience over time, and helps with their confidence as well. So ultimately, the goal is for healthcare providers to meet your highly sensitive child's needs where they are. So we want our kids to feel seen, validated, respected, and safe. And we want them to know that taking care of their health is important, and it's not scary. It's about creating a collaborative environment where medical professionals and parents all work together to build trust and promote well-being. If you're a parent listening today, I encourage you to start an open dialogue with your child's healthcare provider. Your child deserves compassionate, understanding care, and when healthcare professionals know how to work with them, then everybody benefits. And if you're a healthcare professional listening, thank you for making that extra effort to accommodate highly sensitive children. You have the power to help them grow into adults who feel confident seeking medical and dental care, which is a gift that will serve them their entire life. So thank you. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to remind you that you have the power to create a bright and successful future for your highly sensitive child. Embrace their uniqueness, nurture their strengths, and provide them with the love and support they need. Together, we can pave a path to success that aligns with their sensitivity. Thank you for joining us today, and remember, you're not alone on this journey. We'll be here with more insights and inspiration in our next episode. Until then, keep believing in your child's potential, because they truly are extraordinary. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and stay committed to setting your child up for success in life. If you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, please leave a review, share with other parents, and reach out to us with any topics you'd like us to cover in the future. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com.